Welcome to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. Are you ready to discover some niche business ideas that actually work? Well, it's time for a motivational kick to jumpstart your next big idea. Here's your host, Spencer Haas.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Niche Pursuits Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Haas of nichepursuits.com. And this is going to be a really difficult podcast to record because if you've read my recent blog post, you'll know that some of my sites were hit with a penalty very recently in Google, and I believe that those penalties were due to private blog networks. I'm going to go into why I believe that, what happened, which of my sites were hit, which of my sites were not hit, and what I'm going to do going forward in SEO and building out sites. So this is a very important podcast. It basically is going to take everything that I've learned in the past, what's happened recently, and a very definite change of strategy going forward. So I'm going to dive into that. Of course, I have my co-host with me, Perrin. Should we go ahead and do it, Perrin? What do you think?
Yep, let's do it. This is where I would normally say, it's going well, how's it going, everybody? But it's
Yeah.
really not.
That's right. I didn't want to ask because I knew it was not going well.
Yeah. Well, business, I'm still fine as a person. Business, however,
Yes.
it's taking a dive.
Yep. Perrin and I both have our chins up. We're able to move through this whole process, but the wounds are still pretty fresh. So let's go into what happened exactly. It was basically over the weekend, on the 18th of September. Well, let me even back up before that. I started to get, in the previous days before the 18th of September, I started getting several emails from other people saying, my sites are getting a thin content manual action in my webmaster tools, and traffic is tanked to some of my niche sites. And they were asking me, have you seen anything? Do you know what's going on? And at that point, I hadn't seen anything with my sites. And so I basically said that, I don't know what's going on with that. But then the Google hammer slammed down on some of my sites on September 18th.
Yeah, mine too.
And exactly. ApennyShave.com was also hit with the same thin content penalty, and I'm doing the quotations in the air, thin content, because I actually believe it's not due to thin content, but because of private blog network links that cause the penalties. So basically on the 18th, traffic to A Penny Shaved, to almost all of the niche sites that Perrin and I have been working on since January of this year got hit with the same penalty. Traffic is down dramatically, about 80 to 90% less traffic.
Yeah. What was happening too is that they were all getting bumped from the first or second page to the fifth or sixth page, which is why it's not a total 100% drop,
Right.
because they're still there and some people are still finding them, but we're not ranking well for anything is basically what it is. So they weren't deindexed, and they
Correct.
weren't totally wiped off the map. And some people are still finding them, but 90% of the traffic and revenues just disappeared.
Exactly. So logged into Webmaster Tools, verified that I was getting this thin content penalty, and started to do some research into what's going on. And the more and more I did research, and to be honest, it didn't take very long to figure out. I just thought, okay, well, what have I done the same on all of these sites that were hit, and what did I do differently on all of my sites that were not hit? Because I still have several sites that are getting lots of Google traffic. Even sites that I had in the exact same Webmaster Tools account are still ranking for all of the keywords that they're ranking for, still getting thousands of visitors a day. And the difference was that the sites that got hit were using private blog network links, The sites that did not get hit were not using private blog network links.
And I think we should go a little bit further, because some people have been confused about sites getting hit that did not use private blog network links. And I had one of those too. So I had 2 or 3 sites get hit with this. One was a Penny Shaved, of course, which used PBN links. The other one was a skincare site that used PBN links. The other one did not use PBN links at all, my third site, but it was built on an expired domain, and it had an expired domain redirected. So I think so far what I've heard is that almost all sites that have been hit have had something to do with expired domains. PBNs seem to be targeted most heavily, but the ones that don't use PBNs usually are involved in some way in expired domains.
Very good clarification, and that makes perfect sense, just because the value or the similarity with almost all private blog networks is that they are using expired domains, right? So it's a very that's a great clarification for people listening in. So Perrin was hit even though that one site wasn't using a PBN, but was using an expired domain and a 301 redirect.
Yep.
And so that made it pretty clear to me that, that's the reason. And we're going to go into a little bit more details, but I guess, first of all, let's just let everybody know how it felt. I mean, it didn't feel good.
Yeah.
We're recording this podcast now. It's been 6 or so days, so we've had a little bit of time for the penalty to sink in. And so, I'm not crying on the podcast right now.
Yeah.
I'm able to at least chuckle a little bit, but it still hurts a lot to see something that has been our pride and joy, a pennyshaved.com, and several other sites that we've put a lot of time and effort into, and we're doing excellent in the search engines. To see them tank, it hurts a lot. And it hurts our pocketbooks too.
Yeah.
Perrin, tell them how much your site was making. We've kind of not been sharing the income reports because we wanted people to forget about the site, but it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't matter now. Yeah, so Penny Shaved this month was on track to make like $4,000, and for me that was just shy of like half of my total income. So it's like that hurts, and it's like I'm fine. Like my fiance and I are frugal, and like we don't spend a lot of money unless, and I have a bunch of money in the bank now and stuff, more than I ever have. But what really hurts the most is just pouring your heart into something over the course of a year. And for me, it was more than just like building a site. I really felt like I had built my way out of a crappy job and like had established my own business over the course of a year that could totally support myself and my fiance should anything happen. And that was like 12 months of like effort and strategy and like spending money and reinvesting and like getting excited, and then it just disappears overnight. And it is really, really, really tough psychologically. And like, I'm not the type of person to really dwell on stuff. I'm more of a take action and let's fix this and let's regroup and rework. But man, that first night was, I slept hardly at all. It was really, really, really tough. And then, we built a portfolio of 10 or so sites over the course of January and, or from January to, this month. And, we'd also bought some sites. And for that whole time, we've been working towards this goal of like getting the portfolio to the place where it's covering both my salary and our working budget,
Mm-hmm.
And that disappeared overnight. So for me, it was not only like my pride and joy disappeared, but it's like, hey Spencer, do I still have a job today?
Yeah.
So it was really, really tough. And so, that said, after the initial shock of this like major blow to the gut, you kind of realize that it could be much worse, you know? Like, for our business, we have other revenue streams like Longtail Pro, and we have other sites that did not get hit that are still generating some revenue and that we're still excited about. And we have a major authority site in the works that we are seeing lots of good, steady, incremental successes with. So that definitely does keep you going. And we certainly were not the worst hit out of everybody, you know. So it sucks. It hurts. It's like shocking, but it could certainly be a lot worse.
Yeah, I agree. And so, I mean, my portfolio, so you lost, about $4,000 a month in income. I lost about $5,000 or so. Just kind of depends on where everything shaked out. Could have been a little more, a little less. From the sites that were hit. So I took a big hit. You took a big hit. I actually felt a lot worse for you because I knew how well you were doing. You were able to save up so much money, and I guess I felt your pain a lot when I saw your site take such a big hit and go, oh man, I hate that.
Rough.
Yeah.
Especially because I was talking to other corporations and companies to make some really cool partnerships, and you can't do that now. Yeah. I mean, my leverage was my traffic, and it's gone. So until it's fixed or I recover, excuse me, or build something else, then I just can't talk to those people and make those moves, So it's smarts, but man, if anything wants to make you mitigate your risk long term, this is it.
Totally. So I wanted to talk about the pain a little bit, but I do want to move on and move on to more positive things, but overall, I mean, this podcast is a warning, if you will. It's a change in my strategy. I am definitively saying, do not invest in private blog networks. Do not build out your own private blog network. Don't join a public blog network. Stay away from link building using expired domains and PBNs. I'm drawing the line. Enough is enough for me. I mean, Google has always been a game, and I catch a lot of flack for this. If you read the comments on my blog, and we'll dive into that in a little bit, and maybe even people listening to this podcast, I catch a lot of flack sometimes when I say that I'm changing or I'm doing something differently. People want me to buckle down and do my PBNs better and do a better job of not leaving a footprint and jump through all these hoops and try to trick Google even more than you were before. I am just done. I've been in this business since 2005. I have tried to trick Google, and I have, I guess, if you will, for many years. I've used tactics that have worked, whether that's link building or content or whatever it may be. I build up a portfolio, and then when Panda comes, part of that's taken out. I build up my portfolio, and when Penguin comes out, part of that's taken out. And now I build up my portfolio, and, the PBN update or whatever you want to call this comes, and it wipes out my portfolio. And when I sit back and I look at all the work that I put in over the past 9 years, yes, I still have a portfolio of sites that thankfully have not been hit and they're earning a decent amount of income. But it could be triple or quadruple what it is if I had just stuck with completely natural links, building out better resources, better content, things that are going to attract those links naturally on their own, the whitehead SEO. Just do things that Google really wants you to do. So if people are listening in and want to think of it this way, I'm throwing in the towel on tricking Google. I'm joining the side of, you know what, Google, I'm going to just try to do everything you want me to do, and that it actually feels good in a way, though, because we're really going to be focusing on quality content, truly going to be reaching out to people that want to link to us and getting those links. And I'm happy to say that we've been doing that the past 2 to 3 months anyways.
Yeah.
So even though it's an about face for some of our smaller niche sites, we've been building out a larger authority site that we've mentioned many times on this podcast, that is going very well as far as us building out high quality content. We've reached out and got links on the Huffington Post, lots of education university websites.
Harvard
And
just recently, yeah.
Harvard linked to us. And many other universities, I think Clemson University, Harvard University, I mean, we could go on and on. Several university are giving us quality links. And this isn't us doing some trick about, find a forum on Harvard University, that's been neglected for years and sneak in a link in a black hat way. No, we emailed the front desk of Harvard and said, hey, we've got something great here. Will you link to it? Harvard University emailed us back and said, yes, we will link to you. And they put a live link. Like, these are legitimate links that we've been doing now for the past 2 to 3 months. And you know what? That's the way forward for us.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Here's what really is the realization that made me side with you and not, get even blacker hat.
Yep.
Because, the reason you do something like a PBN or a link wheel or whatever the flavor of the month is because it's easy. And there's a certain appeal in,
Yes.
just paying a small amount of money and seeing your site rise, and obviously the risk is that it will get taken out, and that's what happened. But it just it's become so obvious to me that trying to trick Google is completely futile. I mean, if I'm paying $250 for a 1-month membership in a public PBN so that I can get 5 links, that doesn't hold a candle to the hundreds of millions of dollars Google is paying to improve search. They are never not going to find you.
Yeah.
And it's just not worth it. Plus, I mean, whatever you can do is thinking and strategy wise is totally linear. Google's technology is increasing exponentially.
Yeah.
You're not going to outrun them.
Yeah, and here's the other point, and it's a very, very important point. Not only that, Google's smarter and they're eventually going to catch up to these tactics, which I totally agree with, which is one reason that we're changing. Another huge reason that we're changing, the writing's been on the wall for a long time. So, I hired you, Perrin, in January, basically to go out, because I didn't have the time, to go out and try these strategies for ranking in Google, building out niche sites like I've been doing for years, but basically letting you pick up, the ball and run with it and try these things and see if these work. And as we've been doing this, we've discovered it's becoming increasingly more and more difficult to make it work, basically, to make the ROI make sense. So the amount of investment it takes to go out and hunt and search for an expired domain, or go to an auction and pay a high price for an expired domain that has a great link profile, and then to do that dozens of times, build up yourself 20 or 30 sites for an expired domain network. You have to invest in the content. You have to hire authors. You have to put in all the time and effort, not to just find and get the expired domain, but to actually put it on a hosting account, find a great hosting account, make sure it's diverse IP address, and in different countries and different locations to host each individual PBN expired domain, to put up the content, to install WordPress, and then to actually write the articles that link to your money sites. I mean, you have to invest thousands and thousands of dollars, which we did, and hundreds of man hours just to get your PBN up and running. And then on top of that, you have to invest in actually building your money site. Okay, so from an ROI perspective, it's come to the point where you have to invest just as much time and money to build out a PBN network as it would take you to just build a great site and email somebody and ask for a link.
And more up front,
right.
We build
and more. It doesn't make sense from a dollar and cent perspective. It's almost less investment now to be 100% white hat than it is to be black hat. And I'm going to let you jump in here in a second, but that's been the entire draw always of black hat techniques, is that it's easier, cheaper, faster, and better. None of those points equate anymore. It's not faster. It's not easier. It's not cheaper, and it's not going to stand the test of time. So, yeah, I practice a lot of techniques. And to be honest, I mean, PBNs are a relatively new thing for me, the last couple of years. Before that, I was not doing PBNs, but certainly was trying other link building tactics. Almost all of those tactics, 100%, don't work anymore. And while PBNs might still work for a little bit for some people, the ROI is not there. It just does not make sense. Okay, I'm going to let you jump in now.
Yeah. So to add on to that, I think it makes sense to take a look at what we did and how it affected our portfolio. So we had this portfolio of 10 niche sites, and we were using Rank Hero, which, if you're just tuning in or aren't familiar with our blog, is a public blog network. And we also built our own blog network, and we had about 10 money sites. To build our own blog network, we spent $5,000 or $6,000, or something, $5,000 or $6,000 to build that network, to generate 8 or 9 links to our money sites. We spent much more on the money sites that were only using PBN links, as far as content and management and all that stuff, and it didn't even work much better than using white hat on one big site or something. These sites were growing, but none of them were just crushing it yet, because SEO just takes so much more time now, that if you are going to have to wait 12 months anyway for your site to really start generating solid revenue that you can use as capital to grow and invest in an actual business, it's going to be 12 months anyway. So why not just spend your time doing outreach instead of thousands and thousands of dollars on a network that is going to put you at much more risk and take the same amount of time?
Right. And here's the kicker. Another thing that it has made me sort of been thinking about this for a long time anyways, before I got hit, is that we just recently bought a couple of sites, and the sites that we bought did not use any PBN links. In fact, they did almost zero link building. The sites that we purchased that were making $3,500, one was making $3,500 a month, the other one's making $2,000 a month. And anyways, a couple of other sites were making a few $100s a month, but none of these sites used any unnatural links. They basically, you could tell from looking at their link profiles, wrote content and the links just came. The links that they got were pretty weak. They had a page authority or a domain authority overall of 21. Very weak as far as authoritative, but they're making $3,500 a month because they had great content that was targeting very low competition keywords. And so this had already shifted my thinking, the kicker there being that you don't need these PBN links. You can invest and maybe rank better, but if you do content and keyword research right, you don't need it. Maybe you'll be middle of the first page and then instead of top of the first page, but that's good enough for having a safe strategy. And so that's the other thing that really hurts, is that one of the sites that I bought for $15,000 was making about $3,500. It made $3,500 last month, was going to do between $3,500 and $4,000 this month. It got hit. And so that investment is not completely wiped out, because I had made about $10,000 on the site, and it'll continue to make probably $200 to $300 based on what I'm seeing the past few days. So I may recoup that investment, but it really hurts because no links had ever been built to that site, but when we bought it, we went ahead and built some PBN links. And so those few links, not even very many, I don't know what it was, 10 or 15 or something, that killed the site.
Yeah, that was a huge moment for us. And also it should be pointed out that a couple of our readers also have a no link strategy,
Right.
Some of their sites have like we're talking to one reader in particular. I won't give away her name, but she and her husband are doing very, very well. I mean, much better, like much better than I was with Penny Shave. They're doing very, very well with niche sites, and all they do is write content. They don't build links at all. And when I was talking to her, I was like, why don't you build links? And it was just like, oh, we never got around to it. Like we enjoy writing, and the sites that they have, they just picked out. I mean, they did excellent keyword research, and they just wrote tons of content over the course of a year or 18 months, and all of their sites were doing really well. And some of them did have natural links, but like 5,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that was a kicker for me too. Is the realization that you can do very, very well without just like blasting your site with links. And I think that's an old mindset where like you set up your site and then you just throw links at it until you see money. And it's almost the opposite now, where you only need a handful of links. And if you have enough great content that is aged appropriately, your site's going to do fine.
Yeah. And will that work every time? No. There's going to be some niches that you go into that are going to probably be too competitive.
Yeah.
But the exact same thing could be said if you're blasting your site with links, right? There's some sites that we built. We built 10 niche sites or so this year. Several of them, or a handful of them, really didn't ever take off. There's 2 or 3 that, despite us building lots of PBN links too and doing all those things, they just never took off.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we really increased our odds of linking faster using PBNs by very much. And we certainly, as we can see now, increased our risks tremendously.
Yeah.
And so I do want to dive into the risk factor, and simply state that I knew this was a risk all along. I wasn't surprised that our sites were hit in a way. I knew that this was always a possibility, but I did it anyways because I felt like, well, the ROI is worth it, and that can be argued one way or another. Just because things take longer now, I really haven't gotten a huge ROI. But I always knew that there was risks involved with gaming Google. And I've said that many times here on the podcast, and I've said it a lot on my blog through different blog posts. And so this recent blog post that I did, I went ahead and I listed 10 or 15 posts that went through the years of my blog saying, look, I always knew this was a risk. Here's those 10 or 15 posts where I said, this is risky business. Proceed with your own risk. It's your own risk. And I'm not going to go through each of those, but I do want to point out for people listening in that, this isn't completely unexpected. I've mentioned this. I've said if you're building links to your site using PBNs or using black hat strategies, Google will probably eventually catch up. And as I was going through these blog posts, I found a passage that I wrote 9 months ago that was eerily accurate.
Yeah.
It was extremely accurate. So I'm actually just gonna read that, just so people know that, hey, I kind of knew this could happen all along. So it was a blog post that I wrote in January of 2014, so a little over 9 months ago, almost 10 months ago. Basically, here's the passage. It says, I could sit here and tell you that what is working today is private blog networks. And quite frankly, this is what I am using to a great degree for my new niche sites. I am currently building out my own PBN with Perrin's help, and I am using the Rank Hero network extensively for my own sites. But because I have been in the business of building niche sites for a number of years, I know that eventually these strategies will pass as well. Perhaps the strategies will be great for years to come, or maybe only 6 months. I don't know. When you are trying to rank on Google's site, you are at Google's mercy to some degree. At the end of the day, the best advice, and I'll say that again, the best advice is to do your best to get the highest quality links you can in a natural fashion. I did a podcast interview with John Cooper where he discussed some of the link building strategies that are working now. So it hurts to read that, but I wrote that pretty accurate prediction 9 months ago. And so I knew that it was a possibility that PBNs would get penalized. I didn't know how long it would last. Looks like it lasted 9 months.
Yep. And, we knew that, and we even stopped our strategy 6 months ago. We stopped building sites. We still were using PBNs to link build, but we stopped building those sites and started focusing on white hat sites. And it really would have been very profitable for us if this penalty had come 6 months down the road,
Yep.
But we knew it, and we were in the process of shifting our business, and still are, to a total white hat strategy focused on authority sites instead of smaller niche sites that you're trying to get to rank quickly. So we knew it, and we were already doing stuff about it. But, the hammer came a little bit faster than we expected.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Perrin's already been spending almost all of his working hours for the past 2 months building out this authority site, doing outreach, doing all the white hat strategies. We really do have a great site on our hands. The traffic is slowly increasing, so not a lot to report on as far as traffic and earnings, but the point is we had already shifted our strategy, like Perrin said, probably about 6 months ago, and Perrin's almost 100% of his time for the past 2 months has been focused almost exclusively on this larger site. So even though this penalty is sudden and the hammer came down and squashed our sites, we had seen the writing on the wall a long time ago and had been slowly turning the boat around, if you will, the huge ship to go in a different direction. It just takes a little bit of time to do that. So that's the path that we're on. So again, I'm going to strongly say it here. I'm definitively drawing the line. No more PBNs, no more private blog networks. Just stop. Don't do it anymore. If you're out there listening, certainly you have your free will to do what you want, but I'm no longer going to talk about, advise, write about PBNs or other black hat strategies.
Yeah, totally. And it's probably a good time to address some of the other popular people in the blogosphere, because they showed up in the comments of our blog and made me mad, because I feel like a lot of these folks who are saying PBNs aren't dead are people who have vested interest in PBN, and we understand. So we did too.
Right.
I mean, you were vested in Rank Hero, which was a public PBN network. It'd be very easy for you to say PBNs aren't dead. Here's Rank Hero 2.0.
Exactly.
That's,
and let me address that just for a second, and then we will move on to the comments. But I do want to address Rank Hero specifically. So, and I want to clarify for people listening, Rank Hero was not the only network that was hit. As we mentioned, our very private, because we got this in the comments, well, if you truly had a private network, it wouldn't have got hit. Well, Perrin and I did have a completely separate, 100% private network that was never talked about, that was hit. Lots of other people that we know also had private networks that they built out using all the strategies that everyone touts with the different IPs and yada, yada, yada. I could go on and on, that were hit as well. But Rank Hero was indeed hit. And so sites that were using Rank Hero, a lot of them got a penalty. And just as Perrin pointed out, I could sit here, and I know that a lot of other people would, that were making money from Rank Hero. There was a lot of money to be made in the Rank Hero network. We could just very easily not have said anything publicly about Rank Hero and quietly gotten rid of the sites that were de-indexed, kept the good sites in Rank Hero, and added a bunch more. We very easily could have done that and kept charging people monthly, and many people would have never noticed. And certainly a new set of folks in 3 or 6 months down the road would come along and would buy Rank Hero networks, and maybe it would work for a short period of time. Who knows, another 9 months. But I'm not. I have a conscience, if you will. If it's a tactic that I don't feel comfortable implementing in my own business for my own niche sites, I'm going to tell you about that. I'm going to be honest. And so I'm being very honest here. Don't use private blog networks. I'm not using it in my own business. The risks are greater than the rewards. Rank Hero is done. I'm divesting of any interest that I have in Rank Hero. If Hayden's told me that he's done with it as well, and I truly believe that it is done. But if for some reason Hayden comes back and say, hey, we should try this again, I'm going to say no. I'm not going to be involved. Like I said, I believe Hayden's done as well. He's come out and said that. But if anybody approaches me and say, hey, do you want to start up another PBN? I think if we do it this way, and if we hold our breath just right and hold our arm out just perfectly, Google's not going to notice if we stand on our toes just right. I'm not going to do that. I'm not involved. I'm done with that. So, okay, let's get back to what you were saying about in the comments, other bloggers, and kind of what they're saying.
Yeah, so in the comments of our blog, and then in the comments of other places and on their own blogs, a couple of the more popular bloggers in the SEO industry have said stuff like PBNs aren't dead and you just need to improve them, yada, yada, yada. And these are all folks who are selling PBN services or are selling expired domains and have an interest in expired domains. And it makes me so mad because I feel like they're blatantly trying to take advantage of their readers and their customers, which is like 100% opposite of what we do here. Like, the whole goal of Niche Pursuits is to help people create businesses that create freedom for them,
Right.
And like, when someone pops up in the comments after this like massive hit that has taken like so many people down from an actual living to basically nothing and saying, well, all you have to do this or all you have to do is this and you're going to be fine. And by the way, my network is here, and it only costs X dollars to do it. It's like, come on, man. Like how can you sleep at night and like do that stuff, Like, I don't know. It just really gets to me.
Yeah, I agree. And what gets to me even more is if I knew that their networks are still just fine. I mean, there's a lot of people that are saying in the comments, you know what, I wasn't hit, my PBN wasn't hit. And I believe that. There's a lot of commenters out there. There's a lot of people that have private blog networks that were probably not hit with this update. But the clock is ticking, in my opinion. It's only a matter of time before Google catches up to those. So I'm raising a warning and saying, even if your PBN wasn't hit right now, it's going to eventually. It's just a matter of time. But specifically to those people that you're mentioning, these larger bloggers that have PBNs that they're selling, maybe some of those didn't get hit, but we actually know, at least we've heard through the grapevine of one of those commenters, that his PBN was partially hit. Some of those sites were de-indexed. And he's still coming back to my blog post and saying, hey, well, I'm still doing this. Everyone else should still do it. If you build a PBN right, you wouldn't have been hit in the first place. Yeah. So that is what irks me, is knowing that, you know what, his PBN was hit or probably was hit, and he's still saying these things. It's one thing if none of their networks were hit and they're still, sort of praising them. And I'm sure there's people out there, like I said. But to come in knowing that part of their network was hit and still acting like nothing happened, yeah, it's a little disturbing. And yeah, the other point that I will make is that, even if people have these networks and they're still working, they should at least accept or publicly say that we know there's risks involved. And that should be the first thing that they say, proceed at your own risk. And I think that most people that are involved know that there's risks. And, I've always stated that there was risks, but it would be nice. I mean, if people go back and they read the comments on this blog post, it's just astounding how many people basically are calling us out and saying, oh, you've thrown in the towel, never throw in the towel, you guys are losers, we're going to destroy you now in the search engines, and have fun not making any money. I chuckle. It's like there's always going to be people out there like that.
And here's the funny thing about that too. We know one of our friends is going to be on our podcast recently who just crushes it with white hat authority sites.
Yep.
When these penalties started rolling out, he got his traffic shot up because he was outranking all of the people who were using PBNs.
Right.
And that's not going to be uncommon as Google starts catching up with more and more of these tactics, really, even if it takes 5 years, the sites that are left standing are going to be the white hat sites,
Yeah.
But I'm totally with you. The guys still hawking PBNs are honestly remind me, and that's not, because we still have friends that do the stuff that are very good people and are still kind of waiting to see how this all plays out. And some of those people have blog networks that they sell services to, but they just haven't said anything yet. They're kind of waiting. But the people who are still actively selling it and downplaying the penalties and the role of Google and downplaying, the devastating financial losses really reminds me of Big Tobacco back when they were funding all the research and saying cigarettes weren't dangerous and things like that. They know,
Yep.
They just are trying to dupe you out of the next dollar for however long they can. So,
Yep.
Just be careful, guys. There's way too much risk to really do any sort of PBNs or expired domains.
Yeah, I agree. And for some people listening in, or certainly for some people reading, they felt like I was doing a 180 about face on my stance on PBNs. And I think we've explained that fairly well here, that basically we've been changing our position for the past 6 months. So, we had been doing PBNs and then we started to shift away really because it was too expensive and time consuming. And as we didn't see any more results from our PBNs as we did from other white hat sites that we just bought and results other people were seeing, we continued to shift our position a little bit to where basically we had shifted 100% about to, I'll say 90%, 2 months ago. And then, of course, when this hammer came down, we shifted whatever amount was left to shift to the opinion that avoid PBNs at all cost. The reality was just that we had been using PBNs for the past year, and that cost us. Those are the sites that were hit. So, I think we've been pretty clear. Are there any other comments or issues that you think we should address specifically in relation to this PBN update?
So I think some people were interested in if you do want to try to recover, what you should do. And
yes, let's talk about that.
I have a plan for Penny Shaved. I have absolutely no idea if it's going to work, so take that with a grain of salt. All I can tell you is what I'm going to try to do. Before I do, I think it's worth it to say that I'm only trying it with a Penny Shaved because my other sites have much less robust content. A Penny Shaved has very good content that gets shares and likes and comments, and people really enjoy reading it. So it'll be easier to stick up for that site, But I'm just going to abandon my other two sites because I feel like if I were to submit a reconsideration request to Google, they would just laugh at me,
Right.
So with the Penny Shaved, what I'm going to do, because I got a thin content penalty, but we strongly suspect, and in our opinion, is pretty clear that it was a PBN penalty. So in my reconsideration request to Google, I'm going to try to address both of those things. Whatever thin content there might be, and the PBN links. So for a penny shave, that's going to look like adding 10 or 20,000 words of really fantastic non-affiliate content, which I'm in the process of doing. I think we have 5 or 6 new articles up, thanks to my friends who have just offered to help me write articles and stuff. And I have deleted 10 of my weaker articles, which I was finding based on page views, time on the page, bounce rate, exit rate, and just taking the 10 pages that looked the worst out, and a couple of pages that weren't congruous to the site. So pages that really stood out, that looked like they were blatantly commercial pages and not really in line with the wet shaving market. I redid the homepage, so it's now not like a super monetized affiliate page, but instead just a list of my most recent blog posts, which is a user experience thing, So I'm not trying to get people to click on a bunch of affiliate links on my homepage. I want them to go read articles. I'm also adding a contributors page so that people can see all of my writers, and I'm putting a contact form there so that they can ask them questions about whatever products are being reviewed, which is a way to add value. And I put in an about page talking about our missions, how we do things, and how we plan to add value. And when I write the reconsideration request, I'm going to explain all those things in detail. For the links, I went through last weekend and disavowed all the bad links, including the 5 or 6 rank hero links, because I didn't have a ton. But I generated a bunch of bad links just by virtue of being a public case study.
Yep.
And I'll mention that in the reconsideration request. And I'm also going to put in a couple other things. So talking about how I'm updating my writing training practices and the action I've taken on like the thin content and the people who have written that content. And, basically I'm laying this all out in a step-by-step process. Here's what I've done. So I have no idea if that's going to work, but I think it's probably my best shot at this point. If it doesn't recover the first time, I'll probably do something similar 2 or 3 more times, because in my view, if I can recover it, it's more profitable to spend 2 or 3 months doing it instead of scrapping it right now and building a site that's going to take a year to rank, So.
Yeah, I agree, and I think those are great steps. Everybody will be curious, of course, to hear how that goes, but yeah, essentially doing your best to build out greater content, going through disavowing links, submitting a reconsideration request, doing all those things. I think that's your best path, and we'll keep our fingers crossed and see what Google says. If there's anything that we can do to improve. From what I understand, they're fairly good at giving at least some feedback. They let you know yes or no, and may give a few more details. So hopefully they'll work with you, because you have a great site there. The content's great, the writing's excellent. It should be in Google. It's garnered a lot of natural links on its own, and so it should do well.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, the one other thing that I did want to cover actually is about this blog post itself and how well it did. So the blog post that I wrote, it's titled, "All right, Google, you win. I'll never use private blog networks again." And this post went viral, basically. As viral as a post about SEO and PBNs can go, it happened. This is by far the highest traffic post, the highest traffic day that I ever received was yesterday because of this blog post. It blew my mind. I knew it was going to get a lot of attention from my readers, but it's gone way beyond my readership. It's been shared or liked over 400 times on Facebook, which for me never happens. I might get 5 or 6 likes. It's been tweeted over 120 times, shared on Google Plus, 78 times. And it was tweeted by Rand Fishkin, Matt Cutts, the head of the web spam team on Google. I should clarify. Actually, Matt Cutts didn't refer to my article specifically. My article was covered by SearchEngineLand.com. It was covered by Search Engine Journal and probably a few other search engine websites that I didn't notice. But those two specifically covered me. And Matt Cutts tweeted about the Search Engine Land article, which was about me. And tons of other people had reactions on Twitter and other places talking about PBNs, whether or not they referred specifically to my article. So this is a very hot topic. And so if there's a possible silver lining, that's just it, that nichepursuits.com had its biggest traffic day ever. It had just shy of 11,000 unique visitors yesterday, which, I mean, I'm usually getting between 2,000 and 3,000 unique visitors a day. That's huge for me.
Yeah.
That's a huge day, my highest traffic day ever. So it's brought a lot of attention to me and my brand, in perhaps in both a good and a bad way. The bad way obviously being, is this really what I want to be known for? Is that, I got this penalty. But a lot of people in the comments have been positive, supportive, and very appreciative that I've come out and stated my opinion very strongly in that I don't believe this is working. It's not working for me. I don't recommend it. So I stand behind what I say. I'm glad I wrote the blog post because I don't like holding things privately that I know other people could benefit from. So if I can somehow prevent others from getting a penalty on their site and can make their lives a little bit better in the long run, even if that only means that, hey, they are able to build a site that's making $500 a month, that can mean a lot to somebody in their life. And so as painful as it has been for me to write this blog post and to even do this podcast right now, I hope that it can help others. Hopefully I'm being transparent enough and stating my opinion strong enough that it'll steer some people clear of a lot of risks that are associated with private blog networks. So yeah, overall, the blog post itself did very, very well, went viral, if you will, and traffic has been great as far as that's concerned. So that's kind of been an interesting side effect of me just writing this blog post and having that penalty in the first place.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody who stopped by and read it, and thanks to everybody who took part in the discussion, and thank you particularly to those of you who expressed gratitude for our transparency, because we try really, really hard to be as transparent as possible and tell you exactly what's working, what's not working, and what the risks are. And so, even though there were a couple of mean comments, there were plenty of folks who stepped in to defend us, and that was really cool. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the blog post has like 350 comments right now, and there'll be a lot more by the end of the day. It's just going to happen. When people are anonymous on the internet, they're going to have really dumb comments sometimes. It's just going to happen. You're going to have those people out there. And I've been blogging enough now that it really doesn't bother me too much. So I appreciate the people that are genuine and leaving great comments. You're the people that I'm blogging for sure. Mm-hmm. And so going forward, of course, as mentioned, we're going to change our strategies, and we've already been changing our strategies. But what's great is the next couple of podcasts that we do, we had a guest on our podcast that talked a lot about authoritative sites and what you can do to get real natural links. We're going to be covering a lot more of those details in the future on the podcast, on the blog, talking about how you can build out a true authority site, get great links, and still do very, very well with SEO and in Google. You just don't have to use these tactics that we're no longer using.
I mean, I think our two most recent podcasts are guys who are just absolutely crushing it without using any black hat stuff at all.
Yep.
Steve and then Gail. So those two podcasts should be really a great part of this new beginning,
Yep, absolutely. I agree. And I've had lots of people on in the past as well, talking about different strategies that you can use. But yes, our next couple are great ones, and that's the kind of content we'll be covering a lot more in the future. So everybody that's listening in, stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more to talk about on the subject of how can you truly rank in Google and work with Google to provide value and have a real business, if you will. So that's the type of content that we're going to cover in the future. I appreciate everybody listening in. Perrin, do you have any closing thoughts or anything else that you'd like to mention?
Just that, I don't know, maybe we need to tip our hats to Rand Fishkin and Neil Patel. Both those guys came on and told us PBNs were bad, and our response is basically like, well, they've never built niche sites before. They're kind of, only built big sites, work with big companies, but we're kind of eating our words, so sorry.
Yeah, no, we are. And, I do still understand the little guy. The little guy's out there he's being scrappy, doing everything that he can, just trying to make a buck. And, there's still, of course, things you can do. There's black hat strategies that will always be around. They're always going to be evolving. But when it comes down to it, the ROI just is not there. You're going to have a better ROI if you just focus on things that really do work. And that is the other point, is that you used to be able to build out niche sites, and it was a quick way to make money. Within just a few months, you can build a site, rank in Google, and be doing very, very well. Those days have been gone for years now, to be honest. And sort of the last-ditch effort to get quick money was PBNs. And now, as we just explained, that's not happening either, is with the amount of time and money invested. SEO is no longer a quick business. So if you're trying to get into niche sites as a way to make quick money and passive income, just stop. You should look somewhere else.
Yeah.
Go buy yourself a crate of water bottles and go to a sporting event and sell water bottles. Like, that's a faster way to make money than building niche websites. Like, I'm serious. Like, go out and do something that you can make money today. Go over to textbroker.com and write articles for people. You can make $500 a month easy if you put in the time. Yeah. Like, there's just other ways to make fast money. Niche sites and SEO is not that way. You can make a lot of money and do very, very well with websites and SEO and online marketing, but it takes time now. It's not 2005. It's not 2009, when quick strategies worked. SEO is a long game. If you have a year or even better 2 years time horizon that you can invest, that's what's needed. If you don't have that time, look somewhere else to make money. Go out, get a job, write articles, come up with a little business that you can go knock on doors and make money in a week. SEO is at least a year or 2 investment to make decent money.
But that said, maybe we can do the good cop, bad cop thing. And I know we're kind of going long here.
That's all right.
Because I don't want you to totally scare off our readers. But SEO takes a long time, but it still carries that main benefit of being passive.
Yes.
Or eventually being passive. SEO, the way I like to explain it to people, or building a niche site or now an authority site, is a way to front load your work. You're going to work many hours for like a year, but after that, it's very possible to have this asset that makes you a real living without doing much, and that still should be very appealing to a lot of people who are like stuck in their jobs or, want a little bit more money to go on more vacations or something, because that's still very possible and you can still have great passive income. It just takes a lot longer and maybe a little bit more work.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think people should get into this business. I agree. Yeah. But if they're getting into it to make quick money, like they shouldn't.
Yeah.
If they're getting in it thinking they can trick Google, anyways, I don't want to, diss anybody, but I just know there's people out there that, they're struggling in their job and they think, well, if I can just trick Google, Yeah, that's not what they say in their heads, but they think, well, if I just use this tactic, Google won't notice. I mean, Google will notice. Like they're huge. They're one of the largest companies in the world. They're going to notice. So just use white hat strategies. It's a long game if you're willing to invest a year or two. And certainly those that do have more money to invest, they can be building out multiple sites and do a lot of things and can build a very real business. But I just want to be very clear for people that have expectations of, 2 months down the road, they're going to be making $1,000 a month. Like, nah, not going to happen.
Yeah.
Not going to happen at all. So, SEO and niche sites, niche marketing, excellent opportunity. Still a great way to build a business, but it takes a lot longer and probably more money invested as well to make it a success than it did, 5 years ago.
Yep.
So,
totally.
So with that, I do want to just thank everybody for listening in. Perrin and I appreciate you allowing us to kind of ramble and talk about what's happening in our business. We really do hope that this helps out in your business by us raising a warning voice, if you will, sharing what has happened. Yes, some of our sites were penalized. We believe we found the reason why and what we're doing differently. Hopefully you can take that, think about it, apply what is applicable to your business, and hopefully do better because of it. So thank you again for listening, and best of luck in your business.